Alright, we are recording, and first things first, NGC 3324. My basic background for when I just want to have a video. Partly because this week I'm not entirely sure what I want to do. That's also probably the reason why this is a Sunday video, meaning just general video, as opposed to a Saturday video, which I try to have be more science fiction. I do have some science fiction stuff I want to do, I just didn't want to start working on that this week. Maybe next week, we'll see. So for this one, where I am, I think school is starting in a week or two. But I know there's some areas that have actually already started school, and it's just, well, reflecting on that and remembering it. One of the books I had to read for school, I Robot. I actually had to read it in college for a sociology class of all things. And it was like science and technology and society kind of thing. I don't remember the name of the class. But in one way, I'm thankful for it. In another way, I'm not. The way I'm not is that when I'm assigned to read a book, I don't necessarily connect with it as well as if I just read it on my own, read it for pleasure. And I've always known that to be the case, which is why for this, I actually, when I knew that's something I'm going to have to do, it's like months before the class started, I bought it and read it before the class started. There was still the whole, well, yeah, but I had to read it. Had to read it kind of thing. So it makes it hard for me to judge if this is truly a good book or not, or truly an enjoyable book. And I think I should put it that way. It is a good book. It is a good book. And one thing that I am thankful for is it was the first Isaac Asimov book I read, and I decided to get some others. Also, I just like science fiction. Should really read some Isaac Asimov. And I have 4 other books, 2 over there because I don't care much for them. That is The Currents of Space and Pebble in the Sky. Don't care for those. Currents of Space I just don't think is that good a book. Pebble in the Sky I just never connected with me. Maybe I should try rereading it, but it never connected with me, so yeah. These are my 2 favorites, though. End of Eternity and The Stars Like Dust. I think these are 2 very, very good books. This one, End of Eternity, has actually been described as Asimov's best book outside of his series, because he had Foundation. Hang on. I know that there are actually some listed. Foundation, the robot novels. Not sure if these list any others. Nope, not really. I mean, it does list books, but not showing as a series. But it's also, I've only read 3 books in single sittings, single sessions in my life. There's only been 3 where it's like I just sat down and started reading. One, I did that because it was the last book in a series that I'd started years prior. The series kind of went downhill, in my opinion. The first 3 were good, but then so it's like I read that, and I just wanted to get through reading it, so I read through the entire series. That's what I did. I'm not going to name that one. Another book that I read where it's funny, it's actually supposed to be a thriller. It didn't thrill me, but it did keep me up at night. Not because of it thrilling me, but because I couldn't get to sleep. The book was lying there, and it's like, well, I'll just read this until I, fall asleep, until I'm so tired I fall asleep. No, it's then 3 a.m. I finished the book, and it's like, alright, put that down. I'm still awake for like another hour. I just could not get to sleep that night. And the book did nothing to help, did nothing to hurt either. It just had me spending time doing something besides staring at the ceiling. And then there's this one, End of Eternity, that I did legitimately enjoy, and that's why I went cover to cover almost in one session. It was interrupted for dinner. So I did go to dinner, came back, finished reading it. Very good book, very much one I recommend. And The Stars Like Dust I did not do in a single sitting, but it is also a very, very good story, very good book. Maybe I'll do videos talking more specifically about those later, but for now, I want to talk more about iRobot. And also, kind of the idea of assigned books. Books you are assigned to read in school, which it's kind of funny. I mean, even as an author, I'm still of 2 minds on it. On the one hand, reading is so important. You do need to be able to read, because there are ideas presented in actually all 3 of these. All 3, there are ideas presented that we should be presented. That should be given to us, that we should have to read and consider. But at the same time, you tell me I need to read a book, probably not going to enjoy it because I didn't choose to read it. It would almost be neat if you could have it where it's like, okay, we're going to read an Isaac Asimov. It's like, class, we're going to read some Isaac Asimov. Here's 5 books you can choose from. Choose whichever you read. We're going to talk about all of them. Just when the time comes up. So it's like, these 3 and then, 2 others. And it's like, somebody thinks iRobot. I want to read iRobot. Okay, so they choose to read that one. Somebody is like, I want to read End of Eternity, and ultimately they all get to talk about. Maybe that would work. Maybe that would work. And also, I will say this: do I think any of my books will ever be assigned in classes? I doubt it. I almost hope not. Because like, do I really want to reach that level? I'm happy to just write my stories. Anyway. But yeah, iRobot though, it does present some very interesting ideas and concepts in here. One's on morality, because as even one of the stories, I think it would be Evidence, points out that the 3 laws of robotics, obey your human master, human masters, do not through action or inaction allow yourself to come to harm, and then do not through action or inaction allow a human to come to harm. Those are the 3 laws of robotics. Not necessarily in those words, but that is the order though, 3, 2, 1. As pointed out in, I believe it is Evidence, those rules, if obeyed, should make a moral person, should make a person himself moral. Like, they're not going to hurt people, not going to harm people. Doing that, they will be a good person. And as I recall that story, it's evidence of whether or not this specific person is a robot or not, that there's a question about if they are a robot or not. Because they are, apparently, have skin and such, and would be one of the most advanced robots ever made. But there's other kinds of morality in here as well to wonder about. And also just the stories themselves are kind of morality plays, trying to figure out what's right, what's wrong, as in good and evil kind of stuff, how to address certain problems as well that come about with that. But it's also like, I mean, there's one, the final story, The Evitable Conflict. The premise is, these are no longer, well, technically they are robots by what Asimov uses as the definition for that. But these are like a higher level of them that are called just the machines. They're basically computers that run the world. I don't remember how many it says for them, but imagine like 1 per continent, and it determines how much mining do you need to do and how many people you need, the precautions for the mining, how much farming you need to do, all that. Everything is prescribed. They are ordering life for humans, right? But here, let me just try and see where's a good place to start. Yeah. Talking about the certain aspects of humanity, I guess. I should just go further back. But you're telling me, Susan, the main character is actually Dr. Susan Calvin. Some of the stories is her relating the stories of other people, Powell and Donovan. they're funny. I like them. She is a little cold. I think at one point she's described in here as being cold and logical like a robot, which is why she's so effective as a robot psychologist. Which, yes, I get how that sounds kind of weird, but it does make sense in the context of the book. It really does. Okay, but you were telling me, Susan, that the Society for Humanity is right, and that mankind has lost its own say in its future. So the Society of Humanity must be a group of humans that are trying to stop the machines. Which, let me finish. It never had any, really. It was always at the mercy of economic and sociological forces it did not understand, at the whims of climate and the fortunes of war. Now the machines understand them, and no one can stop them, since the machines will deal with them as they are dealing with the society, having, as they do, the greatest of weapons at their disposal, the absolute control of our economy. How horrible, perhaps how wonderful, think that for all time all conflicts are finally evitable. Only the machines, from now on, are inevitable. So it's basically that humanity has given up control over itself, over its destiny, over its future to these machines. Which, I mean, she does point out that it isn't necessarily bad because you're losing, all the suffering is removed. But it is still, is that not the destruction of humanity itself as well? That humanity no longer has any control over its future, over what will come of it. We are all being dominated by these things that we made that we can't stop, we can't alter, which is actually another concept that I have seen in some science fiction. Star Control Origins. I have the thing up here because I reviewed that in 2018, then again in 2020 because of expansions it got. But there's one species in that has dominated the galaxy for a long time. The thing is, the species is so old. Well, it lives for so long that they basically can't change. They can't adapt. And even they are recognizing that they are going to fall because they have no ability to adapt and changes are coming. And I think there's also an element of they like aren't able to produce another generation for whatever reason. I don't remember what that is though. But yeah, it's a very important concept there. And with the machines in here, it's like they could last forever, potentially, as long as they have electricity, but things do change over that time. So it is actually a very worthwhile concept and could be a very interesting one in a class to talk about of, yes, you are rid of war, but you're also rid of innovation. I mean, it would almost be like, are you willing to sacrifice all great music, all great works of art, all great books, if it would mean that you would no longer have any war? Some people would say yes, but some people would realize, well, no, because that is also part of humanity. And it's like, war, conflict you're always going to have that. I mean, think about it. You can have even twins. They're probably going to fight each other at some point just because the conflict does happen. Conflict management becomes important then. But artwork is something that, can inspire people for millennia in some cases. So it's, and also stories can endure for equally long. And it's like, do you really want to give that up? It's, well, from my perspective, it's very short-sighted. And it's also something that is kind of tackled in End of Eternity. So it is kind of funny. I think that based on End of Eternity's story, that the idea of the machines there, Asimov maybe wrote that to warn people. That's like, this could come and it's not good. You don't want that. And yes, you might be able to say, oh, but, all these concerns are removed. It's like, yeah, you remove suffering, but you also remove triumph. And humans, we do desire triumph. We enjoy challenge and try to get through it, try to achieve, try to overcome it. And it is actually also mentioned in here that the machines, they intentionally cause mistakes. So I mentioned, like, they control the minds. They say how to mine things. Well, they also control then certain safety precautions in the mines. And there was, like, recently in this story, a terrible cave-in that killed a bunch of people. And so it's like, oh, well, see, that they're not that useful and all that. And the machines did that intentionally because it recognized that if they made things too perfect, people would reject it. People wouldn't believe it. So they're playing people, that they are manipulating people. And it's, very, very dangerous, that kind of, to allow that kind of domination. And by the way, that is kind of sort of referenced in the movie The Matrix, which I'm pointing to down there, my copy of it. Because it is actually said in there that Agent Smith does say that the original version of The Matrix was perfect. It was idyllic. No one believed it, though. All the humans rejected it. They didn't like it. So they had to make it imperfect. And then people were accepting it. Which makes sense. As I said, we like challenges. We like overcoming challenges. So if you remove all the challenges, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to have to make up some of our own, but if you keep things idyllic, then yeah. So yeah, I think I will try to stop here. I don't know if I can. It's a rambling video and I ramble. It's what I do. Sorry. One thing though I should say this. Doing this video, and I think I may have said this this is the third time I've tried recording this video, so I don't remember exactly what I said at the beginning for this specific recording. Part of the reason why I'm doing this is because I don't really have an idea for a different video this week. I do have ideas, I just don't necessarily want to do them this week. So that means one of two things going forward. Either there will be weeks when I just won't do a video. Sorry. Or you're welcome if you don't like the sound of my voice and the look of my face. I understand. I hate the sound of my voice too, but I can't do anything about it. Same with my face. So there's that. Or I may start doing videos kind of like this. I actually do have one idea for videos, but that'll be more like a series, and that'll be in a while. But I do kind of like the idea of maybe going through, especially science fiction stories, like going through in greater detail these books. Because for this, I just want to talk about some ideas, some aspects of, signed books, because this one was signed, but these other two weren't. And hey, maybe it is. Maybe this is something worth doing. If you or somebody you know is assigned one book to read, buy them additional books from the same author that just you present to them, make them gifts where they're free to choose if they want to read it or not. Because that way then they can choose to read as opposed to being forced to, because that always hurt my enjoyment of a story. But if it's like, okay, you have to read this one. Here are two other books by the same author that if you want to read, go ahead and read them. If not, well, we'll donate them or something. I mean, it's, something like that. To maybe help the person find greater enjoyment, or find that, hey, they do like the author, they just don't like the class that they had to read it in. Of course, it does get a little tricky. I mean, I want to say that these three at least are in the same style. My books can't say that of. I don't know how it is I do that. The story tells me what style it wants to be written in. I write it in that style. Hopefully it works out well. But yeah, so I don't know. Maybe I'll do that. And there are other books too. Like I could go off on Utopia, though I should probably reread it. It's been some years, but I could go off on the book Utopia. I could also talk about 1984, Fahrenheit 451, and plenty of others. Don't know. Maybe we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in the future. But it also might be there might come a time where I'm just not putting out videos every week. We'll see. We shall see. Anyway, see you next time.